Relationship management is one of the core functions of a leader. A good leader will always be an expert in relationship management also. Today, as part of leadership series by Global TV, we bring one such leader who is known as the guru of relationship management, Homi Mulla. Welcome to our discussions on leadership by Global TV.
Thank you, Tom.
Mr. Homi Mulla is a relationship management guru. He is a human resources development professional. He is an expert in organizational development. And he is known as a guru in relationship management. He has worked in Procter & Gamble Human Resources Department. He was the Director of Personal Administration of Monsanto, India. And then he started his own venture in training and consulting. Today, Homi Mulla Associates is known for the programs in relationship management. And they have done more than 800 one-week programs in relationship management across the globe. Thank you, Homi, for joining this discussion on leadership by Global TV. I'm sure our listeners will be enlightened with your words of wisdom.
Thank you, Tom. Very kind of you for your lovely introduction.
Leadership, it is said, starts at a very early age. Sometimes you build it up as you progress in your profession. What has been your experience? Did you show leadership qualities probably when you were in the school, in college, or you built it up in your career as you developed your career progression?
Well, Tom, actually, it was a very, very slow progression. I was a very shy, reserved kid in school. But towards the end of school, I became a prefect and then a house captain. So that started the leadership process. And then in college, I got elected to the college council. That was a lovely experience. And I think most of the leadership development then took place on at my workplace.
So it shows that from your school days onwards, the spark was there, but it probably took time to come out.
Absolutely.
And then it flourished as you built up your career. And we always admire people who venture out and separate from the corporate and become their own bosses. So I think it was always there in you to be on your own, which is a great thing.
Tom, I did that at a very, very early age.
Okay.
Most people become consultants at the age of 60 when they retire. I retired at the age of 34.
Probably you are one of the path breakers in those days, because today we hear about people who take voluntary retirement after 30s and 40s, but those days it must have been a news to know somebody has just quit a very good job to become a consultant.
People thought I was absolutely crazy. He said, you're leaving a multinational job. I was a director at a very, very young age. A multinational job, comfort zone to the nth degree, chauffeur-driven car, you know the works. In those days, a salary of over $1.5 lakh, my God, per annum, not per month.
Yeah, I can understand. Yes. Wonderful. But I'm sure that there is nothing to regret, but then you have taken your own space in the corporate sector in India. So according to you, what do you think is the most important quality of a leader?
Well, I'll answer it a little differently.
Okay.
But I'll start off from where you started off by calling me a guru. Though much undeserved. The word guru etymologically comes from two Sanskrit words, gu and ru. Gu means darkness and ru means light. So a guru is he who shows you light from darkness. He doesn't push you there. He doesn't take you there. He doesn't hold your hand. he shows it to you. That's the path to go on. So I followed that concept very, 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 very particularly for many, many years. And therefore, I developed the concept of process facilitatorship. So I don't call myself a guru, nor do I call myself a leader. I call myself a process facilitator.
Okay.
And I believe when you ask a question of the most important aspect of a leader or the most important characteristic, I personally feel there are 6 actual characteristics. And I would like to say that there are characteristics and then there is a process of leadership. And I will discuss both of them.
Okay.
So if you look at the characteristics, I follow a very, very famous and classical concept of leadership, which is by Blake and Mouton, Robert Blake and Jane Mouton. Well, people say it's a very old model, it's 1964, but it's an absolute classical model, and many, many leadership programs and books actually have a lot of that in place. They've taken a lot from there. In fact, one day I asked Blake, I said, have you read Stephen Covey's or Covey's 7 Habits?
Yes.
And he wrote back. He was a little deaf that time. So he wrote back actually. He said, yes, I know Steve very well. He has borrowed very heavily from my works, in brackets, without acknowledgement. And then he wrote that actually the word win-win, I'm sure all of you heard of that, is actually a copyright of Blake and Mouton. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
So let's get back to the 6 characteristics, I would say. The first is called initiative.
Okay.
And initiative is, Hindi mein bolte hain, pehal karna. Because nothing else works without initiative. Nothing works without initiative. You've got to have that spark to say, I'm going to do something.
Yes.
The next is a high level of inquiry, what I would like to also call curiosity. A good leader always is very curious. He says, I want to know what's happening, how it's happening, where it's happening.
Okay.
The third is advocacy. You advocate a point of view. And very often people advocate without inquiry. So we call that advocacy without inquiry. Of course, Stephen Covey gives you a very beautiful little example of this old man in a crusty old Englishman in a tube. And a guy with 3 or 4 kids walks in. And the kids are making a solid racket. And the old man very trustfully says, you shouldn't have so many kids if you can't control them. At which point of time, the young fellow looked at the old man and says, I'm so sorry, sir. My wife has just died. I just came back from the funeral. I don't know what to do with these kids. It was heart-wrenching, really heart-wrenching. So that is advocacy without inquiry. The fourth is conflict resolution. And a conflict is described in, I describe it as one green ball and a couple of pink balls, or a few pink balls. What we normally do is we try and convince all and sundry at a time. When we have an idea, we take some initiative, we advocate, we want to convince all and sundry. But I've developed a technique called identifying your potential green ball. So suppose you say that the conflict is one green ball and many pink balls. If you want to resolve that conflict, you got to convert either the pinks to green or the green turns pink. So when we talk about identification of your potential green ball, it's like you pick up 1 or 2 people from the group who you feel are sort of siding towards you. And you advocate far more to them than to the others. And what normally happens, Tom, after a little while, somebody says, Homi, I tend to agree with you. And when that happens, the others also start thinking and going into a
different
curiosity mode or an inquiry mode. And that's how a good conflict is resolved. Great. And from conflict solving comes decision making. And it's very interesting because very few people understand the word decide. Again, etymologically speaking, the word decide comes from two Latin words, de and sidare. Sidare means to kill,
Okay.
and de is alternative. Now you put the two together, you have killing the alternative. So when you have a decision, actually 3 or 4 alternatives are acceptable to you, but you don't pick one, you kill the others. It's a
Okay.
very, very interesting concept. And then the last is something very, very important, which I hold very, very close to my heart, and that is the concept of critique.
Concept of?
People loosely call it feedback, but
Okay.
I don't know whether that word exists in the dictionary. Feedback, it doesn't make sense to me. But critique is actually the right word.
Yes.
And critique is very different from criticism. People
Yes.
talk about constructive criticism, but I prefer to call it critique.
Okay.
The difference between critique and criticism is person oriented.
Yes.
Critique is work oriented. Criticism is who is right and who is wrong.
Right.
Criticism is what is right and what is wrong. And good critique, I believe, has what I would like to call flesh and blood.
Okay.
Flesh means examples. Hey, Tom, the other day in the morning, you did this, 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 this.
Okay.
So it has to be something very specific.
Right.
And blood means candor, openness, which means how did your behavior impact me, my department, or my company, or me and my family? It's only when you have both flesh and blood that you have real feedback or real critique.
Right.
Look at it this way. Normally, what we do in day-to-day life is we give generalized critique or criticism. Right. Tom, you're behaving like a fool, man. Now, what can poor Tom do behaving like a fool? I mean, so what? What can I do?
So immediately defense will start.
Absolutely. And we go up and then say, hey, he called me a fool. And it goes on and on and on. There's no constructive thing about it,
Right.
But look at it this way. When there's flesh and blood, the critique is actually not about the other person. It's about you. Hey, when you do this, this is what happens to me.
Yes.
And therefore, in my programs, I've developed a very simple litmus test as to whether it is critique or whether it is criticism.
Right.
And that is a lovely phrase we have in Hindi. Tera baap ka kya gaya? What goes of your father?
Yes.
So suppose I say, hey, Tom, you're a drunk. And Tom says, mere paisa se pita hu, tera baap ka kya gaya? What goes of
your
father?
Normal reaction.
Yeah, a normal reaction. Now, if I cannot answer that, then it is criticism. If I can answer that, then it's critique. So I say, hey, Tom, you have a very bad habit of coming completely drunk to work. Yes. You don't switch on your mobile. Everybody, your family keeps phoning up. I have to send Paulos and Ian to go and drop you home. We lose the production for the day. And that's what's impacting us.
Right.
That is actual critique, both flesh and blood. And I hold this very, very key. I think a good leader must be open to critique.
Absolutely.
So we have various types of critique. Giving, receiving, and the most important, soliciting, seeking.
Okay.
And I would like to believe that most leaders should have that degree of inquiry to solicit critique, to ask for critique. We normally do this with our bosses, but try it with your kids. My God, you'll learn one hell of a lot.
You are right.
Kids, do it with your subordinates. There is something called the iceberg effect. I don't know if you've heard of it, Tom, where they say the top 10% knows only 10%.
Yes.
The bottom 10% knows 90%.
Yes.
So
very interesting, actually. See, in this, you are telling about the 6 characteristics of good leaders, and you suggest that the most important is how you take your feedback, or rather, how you accept the critics around you. So we use another word for this. It's called, we use it as opportunities for improvement. So we don't say feedback, we don't say criticism, we say you have an opportunity for improvement. OFI.
Well, not really. See, critique again, Tom, is not advice. It is not, beta, you should do this, beta. It is not father talking to son, beta, you should
No.
learn to do this. You should maybe improve this. Critique is basically only in a relationship. How does each person's behavior impact the other?
Okay.
That's the narrow, very, very crucial and important aspect of critique.
So I'm just saying in our, in our organization or parlance, we use this as OFI. I mean, don't say critic. Criticism is taken in a very negative way. So
Absolutely.
it's the same thing, but we say it's an OFI for you. So, I mean, it's up to you. You want to take it or no? It's up to you. So there is an opportunity in front of you. We show them the opportunity. You want to take it, it's up to the person on the other side to decide.
Absolutely. Like
So
the guru.
if somebody comes with an open heart, it happens. If it doesn't come with an open heart, it doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
Very nice, very beautifully put. And I'm sure that it really helps to follow these 5-6 characteristics or dimensions of a leader which you have mentioned.
So now let me come to the other part, Tom. Remember, I
Yeah.
said there's characteristics and there's the process.
Okay.
And the two have to go together.
Right.
Now, in the process, what a good leader does is he has an objective. And objectives are longer term aspirations.
Right.
Visioning, you can call it visioning, mission statements, long-term objectives. And those objectives have to be converted into goals.
Right.
And the goals give you results. So actually what happens in the process of leadership, if you can imagine a triangle,
yep.
And at the top is, at the bottom is activities, and there is goals, which leads to a result.
Right.
So activity, goal, result. An activity is anything that you do. An activity has a purpose and a meaning only if it is attached to a goal or an objective.
Absolutely, you're right. From
the top, it is vision, mission. Objectives.
Right.
And both of them lead to a result. So it's like a reciprocating pump, So
yes.
It's like driving a car where you look into the front, but you also have a rear view mirror.
Yes.
What's happening in the back. So there was a very famous gentleman called Robert Katz. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yes.
Who said that, look, at the lowest level, people do things.
Do things, yeah.
At the middle level, they get things done.
Right.
And at the top leadership level, they plan to get things done. And therefore, the skills required are different.
Correct.
At the bottom, they need what is called technical skills.
Yep.
In the middle, you need what is called human relations skills.
Right.
At the top, you need conceptual skills. You should be able to conceptualize.
Great.
So that is objectives. And the next important thing is called direction. Now, this is a very, very important aspect which many people don't follow. Direction are the rules of the game.
Yeah.
In a company, there are your policies, procedures, systems, structure. Can you imagine playing a game without direction?
Without the rules.
Chaos.
Yes.
So what happens in direction is, I think that the best example I can give you is how we as kids used to play gully cricket.
Yes.
And I always believe that all kids are born very sound. They're all leaders when they're kids. Then mommy, daddy, teacher, boss, husband, make them, and wife, sorry, make them unsound. let's
yes.
When a kid wants something, he says, excuse me, it looks so bad if I ask daddy or mommy. I want something. He gets it,
Yes.
So directions are the rules of the game. So when you play gully cricket, remember, I'm sure all of you have played some gully cricket.
Yes.
All the fantastic rules that we had.
Yes.
The selection of the team used to put numbers at the back. When the ball hits the coconut tree, it's
4.
two declared.
Yes, yes.
When it hits the wall at the back, it's 4. If it goes on the roof and the fielder catches it, then it's out. If the next door neighbors, old ladies' window breaks, then you're out. So these were all directions. So the word director comes from the word director. So you have a managing director. You have an executive director. The managing director manages the directions of the company. So direction is a very, very, very key word in leadership.
Okay.
So I like these old British designations, managing director, executive director. This president, vice president sounds like a country president. The third is objective, direction, and then I love this word spashtam in Sanskrit. Spashtam communication.
Okay.
Clear, crisp communication.
Okay.
And then critique. So from all that comes the eventual decision making. So objective, direction, communication, and critique. Okay. And when you can actually follow this, you don't actually have to be there. I've got a beautiful quote which I'd like to read out. It says, which I put up all over my program. It says, leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that the impact lasts in your absence.
Very, very beautiful. Very nice.
So you won't believe what I do in my program, Tom.
Yeah.
I am actually there only 30% of the time. 70% of the time, I'm not even in the program.
Okay.
So of those 6 days, and we spend about 12 hours a day, I'm not there 8 hours a day. But we set very, 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 very crisp objective and direction. And it works. Okay. People are enthused. The hotel staff very often say, "Ye aapka hi program mein log bhag ke jate hain." I'm a stickler for time, by the way. No mobiles in my program. If a mobile rings, it's paid 100 rupees, no arguing. If you argue, it's 200.
That's good.
So this is the process and the characteristics.
Very nice. Very nice. I think very beautifully you have put what is a leader all about. You have 6 characteristics, you have 4 processes to be followed, and you become a leader to be reckoned with. But it's always difficult, I know. I just wanted to know, in your life experience, has there been any time, especially this feedback part of it, any incident you think has helped you or not helped you by maybe in your personal or in your professional life, how it has affected your style or leadership?
It's a very, very interesting question.
Yes.
I'll add one more characteristic to the leadership, and that is called calculated risk taking.
Okay.
Leaders take very, very high calculated risk. And there's a difference between gambling and calculated risk taking.
Yes, yes.
So if probability is 1, then anything more than 0.5 probability is calculated risk taking. Anything less is gambling.
Yes.
So the opposite of calculated risk taking is comfort zone. And a lot of leaders get into comfort zone, and then nothing moves, nothing changes.
Yes.
So I think one person in my life gave me that, or I would like to say 2 people gave me that what is the word? Himmat, courage to take that calculated risk. Yeah. And I have to share this story because it's an amazing story. So I used to do a little moonlighting. Moonlighting has become a big fashion now, but I was moonlighting.
I know.
The mid-70s.
Every organization is using that word, probably without knowing what it is all about.
Actually, M.K. Sanghi of Sanghi Motors and Harsh Mariwala of Marico, they were my first ever clients. And I was moonlighting with Harsh, actually.
Okay.
And there was a gentleman called S.R. Mohandas, very, very famous union leader in the days of yore. Then became a management consultant. And he was my teacher in the Jamal Bajar Institute, where I studied my MBA.
Okay.
So I had once invited him to Harsh's office in Masjid Bandar. That time there was no Marico, there was a Bombay Oil Industries. And
Yes.
it was in the middle of Masjid Bandar. And I invited him there to say, look, why don't you teach them something about industrial relations? So when he looked, then he suddenly looked at me and says, Homi. And he had a typical Malayali accent. He used to call me Homi. So, Homi, you got a client like this. Right, leave your job. Like, just resign, retire. So I said, Mohan, you must be joking. I'm a personal director and I've got a show-driven car, I've got this, I'm earning a salary of so much. The guy was amazing. He caught me by the ear, sat me down on Harsh's desk and says, Homi, right, what is your total salary? So I wrote down, is a 1 rupee that you earn less than this, I will put in for you. So,
That's like taking a
it's very,
calculated
very
risk. Yeah.
interesting. Very interesting. And then what happened is even more interesting. I went back after 20 minutes and says, hey, Mohan, I forgot to write chauffeur-driven car, So again, he caught me by the ear, took me to the window at Masjid Bandar, pointed to a small cab. So he says, look, वो छोटी है, महंगी है, उसमें भी driver है. Then he pointed to a BST bus. वो बड़ी है, सस्ती है, उसमें भी driver है. Then he pointed to a train, the local train. He said, वो बहुत बड़ी है, बहुत सस्ती है, उसमें भी driver है. You choose which chauffeur-driven car you want. And
Very
I tell
interesting.
you, he made me write my resignation letter right in that office.
Oh my God.
Yes. I never had the guts for almost 1 month to give it. I used to carry it in my pocket, And
Very, very interesting.
I had a little scrap with my MD. So, in typical style, everybody has this dream of pulling out a resignation letter, So I actually did that. I pulled it out of my pocket and put it up. And the MD went and said, no, but I'm not asking you to resign. And I knew if I didn't do it, then I would never do it. Comfort zone.
Yeah. So you say that you are pushed out of your comfort zone or kind of advised to move out.
Absolutely.
So I think all of us need someone like that in life to, get into that uncomfortable situation.
Yeah. Another very big calculated risk I took was when I joined the Bajaj Institute. And that time just probably one of the 5 top
in India.
Top,
yes.
Yeah. And there were some 13,000 applicants and 30 seats. And when I got into that institute, in the second year, it was the only institute which had what's called a specialization. And there was marketing, operation, research, finance, and organization behavior. So I said, I'm going to take organization behavior.
Okay.
People thought I was completely loony. I used to hear murmurs like, "Kya re, labor welfare officer banne ka hai tere ko?" That time IR was a big thing,
Yes.
Organization development was unheard of. There was no HR.
There was no HR.
It was called personnel department.
Yes, personnel and administration.
And 80% of that personnel was IR.
Yeah. Correct.
So that was a big risk that I took. Very, very big risk that I took. And of course, another very big risk I took was not joining the Tata Administration Services.
Yeah. So then it would have been a different Homi altogether.
No. Today I shun to think what I would have done there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a very interesting story. After I got into TS, the reason I didn't join, I got an appointment letter from them.
Okay.
The reason I didn't join was because my father was in Tata's at a very senior position for almost 38 plus years. So the head of the TS one day called me in when I was going to fetch my father. And he showed me, he said, "Hey, Homi, you have got into TS, And he showed me the list. And my name was second. And JRD Tata used to use a turquoise blue Parker ink pen with a very thick nib. And I knew that because I see lots of notations on my father's, papers and things.
Papers, yeah.
He put a question mark against my name and said, is it because he is Farooq's son? I was furious. To cut a long story short, I wrote a letter with a copy to GRD saying, my success will be attributed to my father. My failure will be compared to him. Either way, I'm a goner. Thank you, but no thank you. And I joined Procter & Gamble at a 300 rupee less salary in those days. There's a hell of a lot of money in those days.
Yes.
That is another huge
very interesting. So, but then it shows
let me just end with another very interesting story. My father used to have a lot of parties. He was the head of public relations for the Tata Group.
Okay.
So one day, Mr. Chinnappa, who was then the head of Tata Hydro, that time Tata Power was called Tata Hydro.
Okay.
Tata Hydroelectric Company.
Yes.
So he came over home and he looks at me and says, hey, Homi, you have left Tata Steel to rub Vicks Vapor Rub on people's backs. So I said, sir, have a drink and let me just explain to you that in 10 months, I'm in charge of the entire non-executive aspects of PNG. Okay. I look after everything. I even partake in the industrial relations process.
Right.
And what do you think I would have done in Tata's for the 10 months? He looked at me.
You would have been a trainee somewhere.
No, his words were beautiful. Homi, you would have been having a social intercourse. Because for 1 year, all the TS people only go and meet everybody from all over the Tata companies. And I know that for a fact because I met all of them at my father's home. But I love that.
Very interesting. I think you have answered a few of my other queries. One is like, is there a person who has changed your leadership style? And any incident which...
I'd like to add one more.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yes.
This man his name was Bharat Dikshit.
Come again?
Bharat Dikshit.
Okay,
and
Bharat Dikshit
was the head of the Arvind Mafatlal group of companies.
Okay.
So when I was in Monsanto, I was a trained trainer for what is very famously called Kepner Trago.
Okay, I've heard, yeah.
KT, it was called KT.
Yeah.
But Monsanto had made a program called Managerial Analytics. It's on problem solving and decision making. It's an amazing program.
Okay.
And he knew that I had gone through it. So he says, Homi, I want you to run it for Mafatlals. So I said, Bharat, how can I just started my consultancy. I was charging a princely sum of 1,000 rupees a day. I said, I can't. It'll take me 8-10 days to bring up the program and build it and write it. And, it's a 6-day program.
Right.
You won't believe what he did. He called me to his cabin, put his secretary at my command, gave me a cabin. He says, you have this for 8 days, sit and do whatever you like here, and I'm paying you 8,000 rupees for this 8 days. They don't make them like this. They don't make them like this anymore. Tom, I had tears in my eyes, honestly.
Absolutely.
And that was the start of my training. And my first program I ran was for Naveen Fluorine.
Wow,
Naveen Fluorine is a Arvind Mafatlal Group company based in Surat. Nari Contractor, the famous cricketer, was my first student.
All right. Very nice. Very interesting, actually. See, somebody somewhere is always there, but then we should also have the willingness to accept their suggestions or their showing us the way. This is very important.
Absolutely. Acceptance. Very important.
I just wanted another query. See, generally our leadership styles evolve over a period of time. So have your leadership style changed over a period of time, or it's very similar to what it used to be?
No, it has changed drastically.
Okay.
In fact, when I first used to run these programs, Tom, I used to run them with great amount of authority.
Okay.
I had the ego the size of a balloon. And we always I also believe that if I'm not there, then the program will not run, you know.
Yeah.
So actually what I used to do is something very interesting. I used to actually go and sit in the team rooms and tell people, you know, you don't know this, you know. Are you with me?
Yes.
And then I used to run it like micromanagement to the T, you know. I
Okay.
mean, some of the things, if I tell you, you laugh your guts out. I
Okay.
used to
Let's
sit
hear
for
one
lunch
incident.
I used to sit for lunch and dinner with my students, you know.
Okay.
Team one on the left, team two on the right. And then I'd macromanage also what they ate.
Okay.
You know, this Salil, you know, he doesn't, he's got diabetes. So no sweet dish for him. And uska photo le lo. Now, uska photo le lo means people used to wonder why photo. So even if
Correct.
Salil went anywhere in the hotel, he would not get any sweet dish. Even if he ordered room service, he would not get it. So, the reason was outside the hotel, there was a quality ice cream parlor. So the photograph was taken and given to that ice cream parlor guy. So if Salil went there, he'd have a look at the photo and say, "Sorry, sir, aapko main ice cream nahi de sakta." I used to make them walk. Regularly, 5:30 to 6:30 compulsory walk, and I used to carry a pedometer. And I used to carry a
Okay.
little stick. And if anybody is walking a little slow, I used to hit them from the back, you know. I mean, it's like, "Mai nahi hoega, program nahi bhagega."
Okay.
And the guy who actually turned this around for me was a very famous psychoanalyst.
Okay.
So what I did was, I sought a lot of feedback after my 100th or 200th program. I think 150 programs.
Yeah.
And I called a lot of people to my programs to come and give me feedback. See, the feedback that, or the critique which people give at the end of the program
Yes.
is, you know, it's okay. You know,
Yeah.
it's good. It's normally your ego goes in for a nice ride, you know.
Yes.
But I wanted somebody to give me concurrent feedback as to what was happening during the day.
Yes.
And for 6 to 7 years, I got 25, 27 people to come on for 6 days with me. Heads of departments, heads of companies, CEOs, HR heads, psychiatrists, psychoanalysts, psychotherapists. And this was one gentleman who actually told me, his name was Udayan Patel, very famous psychoanalyst. I say was because he expired. And he gave me a tappi on the head and says, "Hey, Homi, why don't you?" And he wrote on the board, LET. And below that, below the E, he wrote GO. Let ego go.
Okay.
Got it? So I said, "No, what ego? And I'm running a program." No. He said, "Why do you have to go there into the team rooms and do it? Leave them alone."
Right.
I was aghast. He said, "How can I leave them alone? That means what will they go and tell people that we went to a training program and the trainer wasn't there?" You know, you stick to a psychiatry, I'll stick to my training program. He had this lovely habit of saying, "Think about it." And he walked off.
Okay.
I actually started following that. My
Very nice.
program took a 180-degree turn after that. Unbelievable. And that's when I
Okay.
started the concept of Einstein's famous theory. I never teach my students. I
Okay.
merely attempt to create the conditions in which they may learn.
Okay.
And that's the
So
start of the process.
this change, did it help your program and your ego, or you felt?
Yes, it did tremendously.
Okay.
It burst the balloon. and
So
more
the
and more so, I used to get a rating on a 5-point scale of about 3.5, 3.7. And I
okay.
thought I was doing very well. I was doing it. 3.7. You ask any trainer or a HR guy and say, "Hey, very good. You know, keep on this trainer." That within 6 months of this change, right? average ratings have gone up to 4.8, 4.9, sometimes touching a total perfect 5.
Excellent. Very nice. Very nice. So it comes back to your first characteristic saying that accepting critique or feedback and taking it in
Absolutely.
is a very, very
Seeking critique, soliciting.
Yeah, and adopting it in our management or leadership style is very important for any leader
Absolutely.
because it helps. You need corrections as we go forward in life. I think
Or
it's
any
true for
father.
professional and personal life, I presume.
Absolutely. And any father. I used to use my son as a guinea pig. Whenever I learned something, I used to try it out on him.
Okay.
So one day when I learned about critique, I came back and I said, Saurabh, what do you like about that? What do you not like about that? Just because you ask doesn't mean he tells you. It builds up. It takes a little time. So he sort of hummed and hawed. He was about 6 or 7 years old. He went into his room. Suddenly came out. He says, Papa, now that you ask me, I have to tell you. Forget everything else. You dress like a ghatia. I was shocked. I said, Saurabh, what do you dress like a ghatia? So I remember what I told you about critique. Critique is how does my behavior impact you? So, tera baap ka kya kiya if I dress like a ghatia? So, Papa, you don't notice? Sometimes when the driver doesn't come back, you very sweetly offer to drop me to school. But have you ever dropped me to school? Never. I tell you to stop near Bombay Gymkhana. Then I walk. I don't want my friends to see you because you dress like a ghatia.
Oh.
And during Parents' Day, do I ever stand next to you? Never. I only stand next to mommy because you dress like a ghatia. The next day, I completely changed my wardrobe. I dress pretty decently now.
So anyone can give you feedback.
Absolutely.
Is the lesson.
Yes.
It can be the last person in the organization. It can be your immediate subordinate. It can be your boss, whoever it is.
Absolutely.
You don't need to look at your boss alone.
The lowest of lowest levels.
Excellent. Homi, you are known as a relationship guru. I'm using the word known. I didn't call you. Now, how important is relationship management in a leadership, for a leader?
I cannot even begin to explain the importance. I'll just share a very simple little concept.
Okay.
There is a formula which Blake and Norton used to use, which said that R1 plus R2 equals R3.
Right.
R1 is resources.
Right.
R2 is relationships.
Okay.
And R3 is results. So, resource, land, building, machinery, cash in hand, cash in the bank, वगैरह. Relationship is people getting together and working. And result is PBT, profit before tax or PAT or whatever you call it. Yeah. Tom, on the first day of the program at around 3:30, I prove axiomatically, empirically, that it is the relationship that directly hits your bottom line. So let's say we have 3 teams. All the 3 teams are given exactly the same book, the same manual, the same amount of time, and they are all at a certain level. So your R1 is completely constant, right?
Yep.
But when we calculate the production efficiency of the team, the R3 is completely different. So I asked them, if R1 is constant and R3 is different, what is causing this? And the answer is relationship. And I'd like to add that in this behavior, I'd like to call it also behavior, there is a very interesting concept which says that stakes govern behavior. So the higher the stake, the sounder the behavior, so we believe. So when stakes are low, we tend to say, "Arey maro goli, chhod do, choti si baat hai. Arey 0.1 variance mein kya problem hoega? Jane do. Nobody will notice it. marketing is demanding the goods, let it go, you know. But what we don't realize is that all behavior is learnt in low stakes. So we learn not to do these little things. And then what happens is like the famous parable of the frog. You put a frog into the hot water, it runs and jumps out.
Yes.
You take the same frog and put him into tepid water and light a fire. It swims, gets groggy and dies. So what happens exactly the same way, the analogy is, all these little behaviors, slowly, as the stakes get higher and higher, the behavior does not change. And then even with big things, we still behave. So what I do in this program is I concentrate on very low stake behaviors. You know, like if I see a messy sort of a chart paper, I tear it up. And people say, sir, you could have just cancelled it, no? I said, no. I said, quality is what I pass by. If I pass by this, that means I'm accepting the standard. So this I learned at a very young age from J.R.D. Tata.
Okay.
So he was flying down his first Boeing. He was a pilot. I don't know if you know.
Yes.
He held pilot license #1 in India.
India, yeah.
So as kids, I was about maybe 5 or 6 years old. My sister and my father, we all went to the airport. That time, no security. We just walked on the tarmac, and he took us in, holding us together like this to see the cockpit, you know. And then coming out, he saw a very tiny tear on the first class seat of that aircraft. I remember it very vividly. It had all Indian motifs and designs and the badams and, you know. And that little tear was so small, maybe 2-3 mm, you know. You know what he did, Tom? Unbelievable. He took off his keychain and he had a small Victorinox penknife. Not the big one, this is tiny one. He opened the blade and he just slashed the entire seat. So everybody says, what? Sir, what's happened? Why? And he had that very sexy French accent. He says, no, don't worry. You see, when it is very small, nobody will see it. Now it is very big. It will be changed immediately. What an amazing lesson. What an amazing lesson.
Very nice. Very interesting. So what you're saying is relationships are as important as your resources to get your results.
Absolutely.
So you need to nurture it to get your results.
You know, if you look at all turnarounds.
Yeah.
You take a high producing unit, you take a low producing unit. You read any book on leadership, it tell you this. And you change the leadership. The high becomes low and the low becomes high. That's the power of relationships and leadership.
Excellent. Very nice. Homi, before we conclude, you know, we have a lot of listeners who are youngsters who aspire to be leaders. So if you have to give 2 advices to them, what would that be?
I'll only give, well, let me put it this way. One is seek feedback.
Seek
feedback. Critique.
Seek feedback. Okay.
Ask. It's so powerful, it's unbelievable. And secondly, most important, look at your low stake behaviors.
Okay.
You know, we just tend not to look at this. You know, your actual behavior is not when your boss is around. The actual behavior is what you watch on your screen when nobody's looking.
I agree.
When you get that right, automatically everything else works out. So
I agree.
2 things for all my youngsters who are potential big, great leaders. Watch your low stake behaviors and seek critique.
Excellent. Homi, I'm sure we could have gone on for another couple of hours, but then due to time constraint, probably we'll meet up another time with another
Sure.
subject or another topic. Thank you so much. It has been really enlightening for me, and very, very interesting concepts you teach your team members who come to you. And wish you all the best, and hope your program will continue for another 800 or 1000 weeks.
I'll have to lift to 150 for that.
May God bless you with everything good, health, happiness, and the energy to continue this program. Thank you so much on behalf
Thank you
of
so much,
Global
Tom.
Team.
It is a pleasure talking to you.